Bioshock's Rapture, the underwater city of fallen angels, of kindly strangers, of freedom, and a great big chain. It's a place, but also a circumstance, a vibe, if you will. And folks who enjoyed Bioshock just seem to keep coming back to Rapture. So what is it that makes this setting so damn captivating? And don't worry, to prospective players, this video will contain no major spoilers. Bioshock delivers its narrative at a steady drip. The audio diaries, character interactions, and enemies carefully enhance the overwhelming amount of intrigue that the city manages to instill in new players. This is environmental storytelling, very well executed, but not particularly cutting edge, even back in 2008. What really sets Bioshock apart is that its environment isn't just a vehicle for conveying the game's brilliant story, it's also the thing that draws most players in, keeps them interested. It's the hook, line, and sinker. See, Bioshock's main plot is reliant on the player's maintained ignorance over the course of the game. It's like a magic trick. A magician will invite the audience to look closely, watch every move, and accept all the facts of a situation. There's one card, totally ordinary, no sleeves, nothing in the hand, and yet, despite providing all the critical details, the magician will still manage to fool the audience in a novel but unexpected way.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question.
Bioshock does the same thing. It openly communicates everything about Rapture. It demonstrates itself, the life cycle of Adam, the game's pseudoscientific power system, Rapture's main sources of electricity, food, and air, the personal lives of its citizens, former and current, are all right there on display. The setting is so beguiling that it completely outshines the more mundane but critical details of the player's situation, and in doing so, it gives the narrative the best possible chance of working. In trying to extrapolate the intrigue of Rapture into definable points of discussion, it's important to avoid getting wound up in the wrong details. The game's literal plot, its objectivist inspirations, the characters, the lore, these are all very enlightening topics of conversation, but in this case, too much light will kill the ambiance. Wait, that's it.
It was not impossible to build Rapture at the bottom of the sea. It was impossible to build it anywhere else.
It's quite the engineering challenge to build something that can handle the forces in play at the bottom of the ocean, mainly pressure. Submarines pull it off, but they often lack windows. It takes a lot of precision glasswork to create safe viewports for undersea exploration. So generally, opaque steel does most of the heavy lifting against oceanic pressures. Meanwhile, it's flat out impossible to navigate Rapture without passing an enormous window or skylight. The city goes out of its way to remind anyone inside of where they are. It's a technical achievement that implies a sort of excess, a defiance of limitations for the sake of beauty. This idea is everywhere. The lights, the architecture, the doors, vents, even the toilets have this subtle but unnecessary elaborateness to them. It's ornament, which is really just an art historical term for decoration.
I used to be beautiful. What happened to me?
Rapture takes its ornamentation to such a degree that the city feels almost camouflaged by its own beauty. The limitations and pitfalls of building at the bottom of the ocean are never laid completely bare, instead wrapped in a series of ironic misdirects. It's luxurious yet confined, beautiful yet filthy, secure yet dangerous. Rapture has a million windows, but at the same time, no sunlight. There's something oddly tangible about that. Real cities are rats' nests. Smog and vape smoke fill the air. Cars generate an overwhelming amount of noise. Buildings will have windows that face nothing but a brick wall, and it's not unusual to get a whiff of someone else's trash or lock eyes with a piece of roadkill. But a metropolis makes up for these shortcomings by being a cultural hub where folks can be exposed to new things constantly. Restaurants, foreign markets, museums, and theaters are the lifeblood of most of the cities in America. So that mix of seeing obvious follies and failures mixed in with this active, bubbling sort of curiosity feels so authentic. All that being said, Rapture might have more in common with a haunted mansion than it does a real city. For instance, that same ornamental beauty is a really important aspect of the haunted house trope. Modest middle-class homes aren't typically associated with ghosts. It needs to be a mansion, a castle, a lavish estate at the top of a hill, usually Victorian or some Gothic style, with luxurious furniture and spacious interiors. A beautiful home becoming abandoned and condemned is a kind of tragedy. It's a horrible waste of potential. Rapture is very much the same, a place that died with its inhabitants. And like a haunted house, it seduces the curious trespasser before entrapping them and attempting to add them to its list of casualties. The dead roam, lamenting their regrets, reliving moments of their lives, their traumas. Haunted houses are closed systems, they're echo chambers, and the same can be said of Rapture.
I will make no proclamations. I will dictate no laws. The great chain moves slowly, but with wisdom.
Culture is supposed to grow from new ideas being mixed with old ones, but Rapture never made room for new ideas. It expected everything to come from within. For instance, the city was founded in 1946, and most of the diegetic music that can be heard inside the city is from the 1940s or earlier. It's not immediately obvious to players who didn't live in that era, but these songs were positively stale by the late 1950s. Yet they still make the rounds on Rapture radio because there just wasn't enough new music being produced inside the city. So the culture in there was more the type that would develop inside a petri dish, a single sample forced to grow inside of a confined space.
If you spot a splicer in the water, hit him with the electrobolt.
Still water left in abandoned buildings will start to develop life-threatening bacteria and parasites within a week. Most of the time, closed systems become rancid because one small contamination was able to thrive and grow within an otherwise sealed environment. Rapture displays this reality on multiple levels. A sealed glass metropolis where very few are allowed in and none are allowed out. The city went from a laissez-faire dream to an oppressive military state in only 11 years. Its people went from great thinkers, artists, and doctors to deranged monsters. The bodies of the dead rot where they lie, and like a sealed terrarium, the ecosystem is forced to recycle resources endlessly in order to support life. The Little Sisters harvest Adam from the dead, and then that same Adam is processed back into a product for the living to consume. Rinse and repeat. It's like when moisture evaporates in a sealed jar, but just condenses on the lid and runs back down the sides.
I hear all those angels singing in a pretty choir.
Angels. The denizens of Rapture contribute a great deal to the tone of the game. In most games, the enemies, if they can speak at all, will talk about the player.
There you are.
Not your best?
Because ultimately the player is their main focus. Without any player present, video game enemies have no real incentive, no purpose. But the splicers are different. They will have much more to say about themselves than they do about the player.
Come on, Mr. Cohen. Please, just give me a break. Just a break.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so.
Many of their voice lines are objectively interesting, and they imply a complicated life lived. They can be seen warming themselves at a fire, trying to score some atom independently, or finding medical attention when they're hurt. This indicates a pretty advanced AI, but more importantly, it reveals that these are people with history, regrets, and a tangible sense of self-preservation.
We gotta guard the borders. We gotta keep them out. They want what we got.
The splicers have become bottom feeders, like the rest of the sea life on the ocean floor, scrounging at scraps to stay alive, trapped in a container like a bug. This cycle of subsistence has stripped them slowly of their individuality, which is ironic considering that the city claims to prioritize the concept of the individual. These people were presumably invited to Rapture because they were exceptional in some way. They stood out. But now, whatever potential they once had has been wasted and eroded by the city. They are, as the Little Sisters call them, angels, but fallen from grace, with nothing left but their memories of heaven.
Angels remember Mommy. Who is that?
How does an environment become devoid of hope? It needs to cross a point of no return, become damaged beyond repair. The tricky thing about that is it's subjective. It's hard to get a large sum of people to agree on whether a damaged building should be repaired or demolished, whether an old pair of shoes can still be worn, or if they ought to be thrown away, or if this represents a finished tube of toothpaste, or maybe it can still be used for another week. The point is, at the far end of the spectrum, everyone will agree when something can't be saved. But Rapture takes advantage of that subjective middle zone. The city is actively falling apart, and there's kind of a dread to seeing it that way. With these waterlogged floors and damp debris everywhere. See, fire is obvious in its danger and destruction, but water is subtle, sometimes invisible in the act of doing harm. It's not just the water that's on the floor, it's how much has seeped in. Did it rot? How deep did it go? Rapture leaks, but not like a sinking ship, like poorly maintained plumbing, like a home that's actively falling apart in front of the family that's trying to live in it.
Shh. Oh, no. Of course you're not dying, my little one. You're just a baby. Babies don't die.
Rapture's most hopeless vignettes are inside homes. These are families who found the only exit to an otherwise inescapable place. A family is something that can't be found among the living splicers because families were the city's very first real victims. And these tragic compositions, among the others found in crumbling buildings and on waterlogged floorboards, they're not necessarily in service to decoration or theming. They're carefully orchestrated for captivation, beyond what most games do. In Fallout, for instance, the presence of dead bodies and skeletons is so abundant that they almost fade into the environment. The same can be said of the dungeons in Skyrim. Even bodies with narrative implications often feel oddly underwhelming in these games. Bioshock stages its corpses like it's putting on a real play. Special care is taken to gather the player's attention before the reveal. This causes an effect, almost a realization, that the death in Rapture is just as hard to avoid as the beauty. If there's any single linchpin that ties this presentation on Rapture together, it's that the city is actively playing with very distant points of view in the player's mind. The diegetic music is almost always in tonal contrast with the reality of the scene, the reality of Rapture. And this isn't in a humorous way, it's pure irony. Rapture isn't special because of its beautiful architecture or the haunting and uncanny splicers. It's not the eclectic, chipper music or the harrowing audio diaries found inside the city. It's not even the savage violence or the staggering and inspiring scientific achievements. It's all of it, because they're all contradictory to each other. There are these half-measured, this wasted potential. It's disappointments, infinite disappointments. To be in Rapture is to feel what it's like to stand inside a broken promise.
You're staring down the puke stain of Ryan's busted dream!
But still, it never relinquishes its beauty. A nightmare is, at the end of the day, still a dream. And dreams will never stop being beautiful. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned for more.